Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. I do come to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 23 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. on this beautiful Thursday evening/night, depending on wherever it is that you're joining us from. Perhaps it's an afternoon for you, whether it's a morning, you are still welcome to this special broadcast. Tonight, we'll be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, who has threatened to leave the Saudi Pro League amidst ongoing disagreements between him and the funders of the league, or perhaps those who are minders of the Saudi Pro League, not particularly his club, but we'll get into that conversation. Then we'll be also speaking about Liverpool, who have been told to pay Chelsea compensation fees for Rio Ngumoha. So we'll be discussing all that and more in tonight's broadcast. But while we go through all that tonight, Atletico de Madrid are in action against Real Betis, and they are leading that game by a goal to nil as we speak. That's in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey with Hanko being the goal scorer in that game. So do join us on this journey as we discuss that. Also in the French Cup, Strasbourg are leading up against Monaco, I think by goal to nil. That game is also ongoing there in that piece of action. So you'll allow me have our audios tested and make sure everything does check out before we proceed in the furtherance of this particular broadcast, But I hope you've had a wonderful day. I hope you're ready. You've started gearing up for the weekend, because tomorrow is Friday, and that means we'll also be getting started with our preview and reviews for what's to come ahead of the weekend, which for the Premier League goes into match day 24. Is it match day 24? No, actually match day 25. Apologies on that. So yeah. That will formulate a part of our conversation tonight as we go through this broadcast. But in the meantime, I also need to be catching up on that game between Atletico de Madrid and Real Betis, so that I can give you live updates as we go through this broadcast. For all our usual suspects, I'll thank you so much for choosing the Football Tribe UG channel to be your destination for all football updates for the last couple of days, and perhaps for the weeks and months to come ahead. Anyways, I can see we already have a comment through from Liz Funny Moments. Hi, Liz Funny Moments. Where are you joining us from this beautiful evening? Good evening to you. For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Robert Kesakos, and I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda, where it's 26 minutes past the hour of 11 p.m. Do let me know where you're joining us from, what time it is on your side. About Trolley, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. It says hi. Hi to you too. I hope you're doing well. And okay there, but thanks so much for choosing to join the Football Tribe UG channel. If it's your first time here, please do me the kind honor and subscribe to the channel, but also like the broadcast there, so that you do not leave us at the same numbers you found us at. It's always exciting when we have new community members join the forum there, for those of you that are interested in the game of football. So yeah, because that's the topic of the channel. That's why we set up this forum, to be speaking to you about matters of football. As we go through tonight, I will be giving you updates from different sides of the aisle, like I've told you, in terms of the updates. There, the French Cup is ongoing. The Copa del Rey semi-final game between Real Betis and Atletico de Madrid is ongoing as well. So yeah, but like I said, our primary focus will be in the Saudi Pro League on Cristiano Ronaldo. That is Pedri says, hey man, hi to you too, Pedri. How has been your Thursday? I hope you're doing good. I hope you're getting yourself ready for our weekend predictions of match day 25. You say Juvis Bissouma. Juvis Bissouma. What happened with Juvis Bissouma? Anyways, so yeah, get yourself ready for our predictions for match game week 25. Say I'm good at football. I have played by Ajax. It is a good club. You can see it on Google. Oh, wow. That was a bit of a snafu of a moment. Anyways, like I told you, tonight our focus is going to be on the Saudi Pro League, where Cristiano Ronaldo is apparently threatening to leave the club. Trolley, you ate football. How hungry are you, my friend? Anyways, Cristiano Ronaldo is apparently threatening to leave the Saudi Pro League. Now, like we've discussed here before, his protests or his recent protests, including refusing to play in one of their games. I think this was it against Al Riyadh? In their 1-0 victory. He refused to play in that game as part of his protest because he does not agree with how the sovereign fund, that is the public investment fund of Saudi Arabia, is not giving significant investment to his club Al Nassr. We know for a fact that the sovereign fund or the PIF do own or run the biggest 4 clubs in the league. Now, he was further angered by the fact that Karim Benzema left Al Ittihad and went to Al Hilal, the side that is coached by, of course, Simone Inzaghi, the former Inter Milan coach. Now, all that did happen and it did not leave him happy. Now, we have also learned that unfortunately or fortunately, that transfer was not facilitated by the PIF or no the Saudi Pro League. It was rather aided by a billionaire or funded by a billionaire called Al Walid bin Talal. Is the one that funded that move, with Karim Benzema also extending his contract by a further 12 months, which means his current deal will run until the summer of 2027, which also coincides with the time when Cristiano Ronaldo's contract will also expire. Now, like I said, he's voiced concerns or expressed dissatisfaction with how affairs are being run. It does feel, I think, perhaps to him, that increasingly his chances of winning the Saudi Pro League title are becoming slimmer and slimmer. At the moment, of course, they have a game tomorrow against Al Ittihad, while he was expected to perhaps feature in that game. According to Fabrizio Romano, those rumors are wide of the mark. Regardless, he's since returned back to training. And then Al Ittifaq will be up against Damak, while Al Riyadh will take on Naeem SE. For those of you that care to remember, Naeem SE, that's where Alexander Lakzate plays his football. As we speak, Al Hilal are leading Al Qadoud by 6-0, while Al Ahli are beating up against Al Hazam by 2-0. Now, the interesting bit there is that Al Hilal are leading the table by 50 points. Wow, what a beautiful goal that is to make it 2-0 for Atletico de Madrid. Wow, beautiful football there. Meanwhile, Ademola Lookman is already in action, featuring for Atletico de Madrid in there. So, okay, you guys are having a mini chat of your own, okay? All right, go ahead, please. Trolley and Pedri, it's always relieving to see. But yeah, Ademola Lookman took a significant part in that goal as Atletico de Madrid squad to make it 2-0 against Real Betis, and you could see that the manager Manuel Pellegrini of Real Betis wasn't too pleased with that scoreline, with Simeone, the son to the head coach Diego Simeone, being the one scoring that goal. Then also in the other game that perhaps you should keep your tabs on is a game between Atalanta and Juventus in the quarterfinals of Coppa Italia. As we speak, Atalanta are leading that game by 1-0. The game is in the 32nd minute. Okay, I see I have some questions in there. I see, guess how old Mr. Tribe is? Ronaldo or Messi, I would say 31. Okay, nice guess. Not spot on, but nice guess, quite close. Trolley says, yeah, I say 34. Okay, interesting, interesting. A prediction there. Of course, Pedro is always going to choose Lionel Messi in any debate regarding the two between Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. For those of you that do not know, Pedro is a Barcelona fan, so he's a diehard of everything Barcelona. And I won't say envious, but perhaps envious, but also hateful or dreadful of everything Real Madrid. What is the answer, if you mind me asking? Well, I cannot give you the exact answer. I'll leave you guys to keep guessing. But try finding the average between your two predictions, and perhaps you could be close to the right answer there. Anyways, so yeah, that's all I can say about that. But yeah, Juventus are a goal behind against Atlanta. So still speaking Cristiano Ronaldo, I've told you there's some games to be played there, but of course he is not too pleased that Al Hilal, who are already leading the pile by 50 points after 20 games played, at the same side that were further strengthening their squad in the January transfer window by bringing Karim Benzema, who I think, and I stand to be corrected, was possibly the highest goal scorer in the last campaign, and that was when Al Ittihad was winning the league last season. So Al Nassr have since dropped to third place with 46 points, 1 point behind Al Ahly, who have played a game more, just as much as Al Hilal, who have also played now a game more with Al Nassr in action tomorrow against a very, very difficult opponent in Al Ittihad. So what you do expect is that if Al Nassr can win their game tomorrow, they will go within a point behind Al Hilal, who continue to lead the standings there. But so very, very interesting reports are coming out of there. But Cristiano Ronaldo, not too pleased. I remember when he was renewing his contract, we did receive reports that he was looking to take a part ownership in Al Nassr to invest in the club. Ademola Lookman is doing some fancy things on here. Is doing Ademola Lookman things. Then also, the other key thing to take away, like I've told you, the public investment fund or the sovereign fund. Now, it is being reported that if Cristiano Ronaldo is to be brought back in the fold, if he's to come around the table, then the public officials from the public sovereign fund and perhaps the Saudi Pro League could have to come and intervene. His disagreements have nothing to do with his club or the management of his club or the running of day-to-day affairs of his club, because he knows the people that call the shots, that it's not entirely on Al Nassr to pull all the strings. But remember, Al Nassr, I think they added Pablo Mari to their fold, but also significantly in the summer they managed to bring in Joao Felix and Kingsley Coman, to further strengthen the squad. We're talking about a team that already has players like Sadio Mane. And so it's not that the team is weak, but also for those of you that are always making the argument that Cristiano Ronaldo no longer cares about the sport and is all about the money, well, he's in protest because he feels that his chances of, trying to win the Saudi Pro League are getting slimmer and slimmer if their rivals are getting more investment within their squads, while his club doesn't seem to be moving an inch. So, Mr. Tribe, tell us, I think it's 32. You're right. Is that the average that you find when you do the math between 31 and 34? Is that the average you get? I told you, use the average. Anyways, so of course, very interesting. Now, in Cristiano Ronaldo's contract that runs until the summer of 2027, it has a release clause of about 50 million euros. Now, with these threats, with this speculation, with these reports that are emerging, that there is a chance that he could leave the Saudi Pro League, we all know the significance of Cristiano Ronaldo as a brand, as a player. in the Saudi Pro League. He's aided the movement of very key names like N'Golo Kante, Karim Benzema, Neymar at some point, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and and all these other big name players that have moved to the Saudi Pro League over the last 3 years since he's been there when he left Manchester United. So the Saudi Pro League, in terms of their global branding, in terms of their marketing, in terms of TV revenues and broadcast rights and commercials that are related to the league itself, they know the significance of having Cristiano Ronaldo, of having a brand of Cristiano Ronaldo within their league. So I do not think they would want him to be leaving right now, even though they've already benefited from what he comes with or what his name comes with to the table, just as much as he as an individual has benefited. Ademola Lookman. And it's a goal. A debut goal from Ademola Lookman. I thought he had overplayed it there, but he still managed to find a way through. Ademola Lookman, the Nigerian international, there on target. You say, Pedro says, I searched it on Google. It says Robert Kesakos has a net worth of $5 million and is age 32. Most of his wealth is generated from his YouTube career, accumulating over 3,000 subscribers. Pedri, you and I both know that 3,000 subscribers does not even earn you $3,000. Then how can whatever AI is giving you the information, if anything, should the owners of that AI ought to be arrested? I'm not even 1% worth that, I think. Anyways, we'll leave that debate, that conversation for another time. So, Cristiano Ronaldo has a release clause in his contract of up to 50 million euros. Now, should he decide to leave the Saudi Pro League, of course, it would give him an opportunity, perhaps, to clinch retirement at his former club, Sporting Lisbon, who I think for commercial reasons, other than footballing reasons, given the difference in pace of football and Cristiano Ronaldo's current pace, would give him a chance to return there and perhaps see out the remainder of his career there. But also, in recent times, we know for a fact that the Super League clubs in Turkey have also been interested or have had a good sort of ongoing relationship between them and Saudi Pro League clubs, where we've seen players like Şen Duran make a loan move from was it Al Ittihad to go to Fenerbahce, where that loan was terminated, and he has joined. I'm forgetting the club. But he's sort of become a football tourist in a way when he moved on already. Now, what's the name of the club that is just joined? Oh, Jesus Christ! Let me hope I can remember this quickly. But it's not coming to mind quickly. I need to find out. But as I do find out, yes. Okay. Come on. Let me find that out here. Who are you? Şen Duran. I'm talking about Şen Duran, the former Aston Villa striker, who had been playing at Fenerbahce on loan there. Is the one we're talking about. You say 15 or 50? Not even close. Pedri, I'm not even worth what, $10,000. My net worth. My net worth is not even that. You say it has, if he returns to Sporting, he would be playing Champions League again. Yeah, he would be playing Champions League football again. That's it. He will be playing Champions League football again. And as funny as that may sound, I think at one point he could be one of the oldest players playing UEFA Champions League if he ever did return to Sporting Lisbon. You say from Al Nassr. No. Şen Duran is not from Al Nassr. Let me find out in a bit. Meanwhile, Karim Benzema has scored a hat-trick on his debut for Al Hilal, and Very, very interesting stuff. While Cristiano Ronaldo is over there mourning about the lack of investment in his own team, yes, John Duran has joined Zenit St. Petersburg on loan there from Al Nassr. Yes, yes, it's Al Nassr. Thank you for the correction. No, I mean Ronaldo release clause. Oh, yeah, it's 50 million euros. Ronaldo's release clause is 50 million euros, not 15. 50 million euros. Now, I think any club worth their salt would pay the 50 million euros for Cristiano Ronaldo, even though, like I've said, from a footballing perspective, he's not going to offer you a great deal. What you will bank on is the commercial value that comes with having him, 50, yes, 50. So now, because you look at it in a commercial perspective, that one, when you sign a player like Cristiano Ronaldo, your club merchandise sales are going to increase. Your club brand value is going to increase. When you go to the negotiating table with prospective sponsors of your club, you're going to, negotiate for bigger deals than you would negotiate without him. 5-0, right? Yes, 5 zeros. No, not 5 zeros. As in 50 million, not 500,000. Because 500,000, that would be what? The 5 zeros. So anyway, Jean Duran is joining Zenit St. Petersburg. I mean, it's all the chaos that Russia has had to go through with all the sanctions that were placed upon them in the wake of their war with Ukraine. I mean, I did not, I sort of did not envision this kind of deal. But anyway, I do not think many of us, including, or particularly myself, have been privy to so much of what is happening in the Russian league, given the, the sort of sanctions and their suspension from the, from the UEFA Champions League and European competitions and things like that, So we just have to, we just have to wait and see. We'll try to see if we can keep up tabs on John Duran. But I mean, he's becoming a football tourist because in the space of 1 year, he's now moved from Aston Villa, because he left Aston Villa in January 2025, gone to Al Nassr, left Al Nassr and gone to Fenerbahce, played there, and now he's going to Zenit St. Petersburg. So, but let's hope it all works out well for him ahead of the World Cup, because in any case, we all know that he needs that significantly well for his, prospects of being in that squad for the World Cup. Anyways, so 50 million euros is the release clause. Then, like I was telling you, Saudi Pro League clubs are sort of have built themselves a bit of a relationship with the Turkish Super League. And that relationship is perhaps bound to bear fruits because it is looked at as a potential destination for Cristiano Ronaldo should he choose to leave, the Saudi Pro League at this stage. Now, I do seem to remember that the deal for N'Golo Kante to move to, I think, Fenerbahce had been botched because FIFA had rejected the paperwork. Okay, so I because this was, but yesterday, okay, initially it had come out that paperwork had been refused. Now, things seem to have shifted because then yesterday, Fabrizio Romano came back to confirm, to say N'Golo Kante was on his way to Fenerbahce. And I did see some pictures of Fenerbahce fans white fans who painted their faces black to welcome N'Golo Kante. Now, I honestly, yes, it eventually went through. Yes, thank you so much, Pedri, for that. But initially, the reports had been that FIFA had rejected the paperwork. Initially, that had been the the reports that we were getting. Now, the Fenerbahce fans painted their faces black as they welcomed N'Golo Kante. Now, when I saw those images, And this wasn't like perfect painting or painting your whole face black. It's a sort of the kind of painting where you have patches of black and, your white or brown face. To be honest, I didn't know what to make of it because I don't know if I'm being too pessimistic or reading too much into it, but it almost felt a little racist. I mean, if you just saw the image and they told you that these people came to welcome N'Golo Kante, I mean, Pedri, help me here. What would you read into that? Because I understand wanting to show the gesture, but I mean, painting your face black and not fully like black, but then it's patched up. I mean, it's a bit of a delicate path to walk. It's very subjective in its own way, but I just didn't like it that much. You said Zeneti players have Dejan Lovren, Sander Asmon, Wilson Isido, Luis Enrique, N'Golo. Okay, so yeah, for me, I looked at that image and I kept thinking to myself, nah, perhaps not, perhaps not. So yeah, then yesterday we talked about, guys, what do you think about Paul Pogba? He's currently, I think, nursing a calf injury and has been on the sidelines for some time. You say this is so disrespectful. It means like they do not want him there. Extremely racist, in my opinion. It is the first time I see something like this, and I feel disgusted because I feel N'Golo, because I like N'Golo so much. Then Zayev, is that Zayev? Zayev says, Salam alaikum. But thank you so much for joining us. What do you think of African match official referees? That is Lab. Pedri says corrupt. Before I get to that question, Lab, please bear with me and I first, wrap up with Pedri's comment. Now, I mean, I understand where you're also coming from, but I've never seen it before. I've seen all sorts of black players make transfers to these big clubs where fans are passionate, where we know that even within those respective countries, you have racial slurs that come in. We've seen it with players, Romelu Lukaku in Italian football on numerous occasions, with players like Marcus Thuram and others, even when you go back to the days of Sule Ali Montari at Inter Milan, was part of that UEFA Champions League winning side that won the treble with Jose Mourinho. I mean, I understand that. But even when those teams have been excited to welcome a player a black player, I've never seen an image where fans paint themselves black as a show of welcomeness to the player that is coming in. Maybe there is a starting point for everything. And I'm being too critical or being too pessimistic about this, but it just did not look a good image. It just did not look a good image. Because tomorrow, let's say, if a certain group of fans, and we know all our respective clubs that we pay allegiance to, do have that sort of cohort of fans who are very insensitive, who are racially biased, and things like that. Things that we do not necessarily agree with, not today, not yesterday, and necessarily not tomorrow. But we do understand that those people exist. So if you have such a group, tomorrow when they wake up and they feel they should be insulting that player, we remember what happened to Dan Alves all the time. There's a game, and Pedri, as a Barcelona fan, help me remember this moment. There is a game Barcelona were playing. I don't remember the exact competition. And then Dani Alves goes over to take a corner kick, and a fan throws a yellow banana at him as if to signal that they were throwing the yellow banana to a monkey or something like that. And then he picks up the banana, opens it, eats part of it, and then he brings in a corner, which results into a goal. And that was sort of the perfect response to it. Of course, he decided to make a joke of it and things like that. But all I'm trying to say is that in the modern game, where we still have these things still happening, for you to do that kind of image, tomorrow when you have a cohort of fans who are insensitive, who are racially biased, if they want to disrespect N'Golo Kante, if they want to show racial slurs, they're going to come and paint their faces the same way you did. Now, you see how what you intended for good is going to be used for bad in this particular case, So it becomes hard, It becomes hard. It's like you've opened a can of worms, because whereas you may think you're being well-intentioned in showing that gesture, it may open a can of worms. It may open a door for something more horrendous than you can actually imagine. So, I do understand where Pedri, puts his in trying to relate to his submission there. Pedri says it was against Villarreal. They won the game by 3-2. That was in 2014. Thank you so much for that clarification. Okay, going back to Lab's question, what do you think of African match officials? To be honest, many of them are still wanting in terms of standards. However, those that I feel that have been good have not been given a more pronounced chance at the highest of stages. And by the way, even when I think they're good, they're not good enough. Let's be honest, I do not think there's such a perfect world where we see brilliant referees all through and through. Every single weekend, literally, we have a discussion about English referees and all the sorts of mistakes or silly decisions that they make, or decisions that are questionable that they may make on a weekly basis. So I do not want to say that African referees are the worst. Meanwhile, the referee that was in that game in the final between Morocco and Senegal has been handed a CAF Champions League match to handle. I want to see if I can find that game. And some people have not taken good readings to that. And for me, I keep saying I defended him. Why? Because I did not think, whereas the decision he made was questionable, I did not think he had the worst of days, in being in the middle of the pitch. So Pedri says corrupt. It is true that some referees have been found to be corrupt on the African continent. There used to be a Ghanaian journalist, and last I checked, I think he had been killed. He was called Anas. For those of you that do remember, he did an undercover investigation or investigative story about how match officials were involved in match fixing, were being corrupt, were being paid to influence match results. So and then let's not forget, over there in Turkey, there have been reports of officials placing bets on games that they are involved in. And I don't remember the exact report because I didn't read the whole of it, but reports had come out that about more than 100, senior referees within the realms of Turkish football had betting accounts, and things like that. So the idea about referees not being good enough, or maybe being corrupt, or otherwise, whatever the opinion we may have about them, is not necessarily new, and it's not only unique to Africa. It's not only unique to Africa. It's something that is happening in many parts of the world. Perhaps in some cases it's more skewed, or we do not get to learn about it. Hi, LFC. Then, for example, in some cases, we've tried to connect dots where there appears to be coincidences. You remember when a referee, Michael Oliver, went and officiated a game was it in Saudi Arabia, but somewhere in Asia, and that game involved senior figures from Manchester City, and apparently was paid at £20,000 for that game alone. Whereas that money is significant in itself, and we cannot hold him against going for a gig that pays him well. We then came back to draw comparison in the sort of favors that he appeared to be extending to Manchester City in the wake of that. So the game is oftentimes brought in disrepute by referees who are of wanting standards, and it's not that we demand perfection from them, but oftentimes we demand for consistency, we demand for common sense to reign in. We demand for, basic principles of humanity in football not to be ignored, and if you're going to be biased, you cannot be blatant about it, and yet in the African game, guys, for games that we do not get to watch on TV, so many things happen. Let me tell you, in Uganda here particularly, and this is not to put Uganda in bad shit or whatsoever, there was a game in 2015. It was a Uganda Cup final between Sports Club Villa, that's the most successful club in the Uganda Premier League with 17 league titles, their last coming in 2024, against KCCA, who are the second most successful club in the league. I think they have 14 Premier League titles. They played in the Uganda Cup final in a game that was, I think, in Ntungamo, and the referee then, Robert Done, was accused of being biased. And that game had finished, I think, by scoreline of 3. That game had to be replayed at a different venue because it had been judged that the referee had been biased, I think it was called Rogers Mirror or something. So these things unfortunately happen in modern day football, in modern day football. So, okay, let's move on. Ali said Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain to Celtic. Yes. Former Aston Villa manager Martin O'Neill did come out to say that they were having conversations with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who for many months, ever since leaving Besiktas, has been training with the Arsenal team. But I also did hear reports that he's been undergoing or doing his coaching badges, and there are some reports, according, I think, to Daily Mirror, that did suggest that Mikel Arteta would want to have him as part of the coaching staff should he choose to retire from football, because currently within the composition of Arsenal's backroom staff, there's not former players, because Edu Gaspardaud left the club, Jack Wilshere left the club when he got his job at Norwich City and he did not return and things like that. So we also had those reports. Pedri says, I think in African football in general, it has recently been Africa known Africa more towards dark skin tone against Arab African nations. This also is implying this also is implying to refereeing, in my opinion, like referee with the dark tone in a match which includes, let's say, Morocco versus Tanzania, will lean towards Tanzania, in my opinion. Now, Pedri, I'll disagree with you on that one. Why? Because we live on a continent of mixed races and mixed colors. When you meet people from Botswana who are lighter skinned, majority of whom, people from South Africa, we know that South Africa has so many whites because of their history, apartheid and things like that, the Dutch Boers, and things like that. So they have a very large white community who are native, who are South Africans by birth and everything that they know. When we have a part or a whole part of Africa who are light skin or Arabic, that's from Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Libya, Egypt, and some parts of Sudan and things like that. So whereas I understand your school of thought, if you're having a game between Senegal and let's say, a game between Tunisia and let's say Tanzania, and you bring a referee from Senegal, it's not true that that referee is going to be inclined to officiate in favor of Tanzania just because Tanzania has majority black players. Let's not forget, Tanzania itself has those Afro-Arabs. We call them Afro-Arabs because of the intermarriages that happened between the Africans and the Arabs during the slave trade period, and the Zanzibar whole history of trade and things like that. You have so many very, very light-skinned Tanzanians from Zanzibar and then from the around the coastal areas. There. And some similar thing is there with Kenya. So because Kenya has a very large Somalis community and people from Djibouti who are more light-skinned than others. So if you have a game of that nature and you bring a referee from Senegal, I do not think you would have that sort of a bias. If the referee is going to be biased, in any case, it would emanate from either being corrupt, he himself, or being a bad referee, but not because of the color. The other example I'll give you, take an example. It's like saying, if let's say Spain were to play a game against Haiti in the World Cup, then we shouldn't choose either white referee or a dark referee, regardless of the country they come from, because then they may favor a skin color that appeals to them. If we go down that line of thought or that line of theory, then we are just going to walk down a rabbit hole, because then eventually you may not have referees officiating the game, because basically then what you're doing is pitting color against color, in this particular case. When we go back to the final itself, the AFCON final 2025, he was a dark-skinned referee from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, if we were to go by that school of thought, you'd imagine he would side with Senegal, and yet the entire world seemed to think he was siding with Morocco, So, there I want to disagree with you on that one, sir, respectfully. Oh, okay. LFC says, can't stay, I'm sick, sorry about your illness. We wish you a quick recovery. What is the point of coming then? LFC always comes around and says hi, even when sometimes he comes when he's having family gatherings. Lab says, I'm from South Africa. Bro, thanks. How is South Africa? One of those countries I would love to visit. Cape Town, South Africa, Johannesburg, Durban, very hot in the summer. I've only seen South Africa from a distance, for movies, for music, and there's a TV show on a Nat Geo World called Snake City by some guy, I forget his name. So thank you so much, Lab there. But we also have a colleague from South Africa called Prissy Nkosi, who is an Arsenal fan. Oftentimes, he tends to spare time to be with us here. And I hope you've subscribed to the channel, but more importantly, also like the broadcast. What team do you support? Lab 4. Okay, Pedro says, LFC, I'm sick as well, but I do anything to make Mr. Tribe happy and join him on his beautiful stream. He's an amazing man. I don't care if I'm sick. I'll always support him to achieve his dreams. Thank you so much, Pedri, for your show of kindness. In Africa, do you need a visa, or can you move around countries like the EU? Unfortunately, our leaders are so backward that you need visa in majority of the countries. Some countries have started to open up to do away with the visa policy, or they want to do visa on arrival. Now, visa on arrival is more common than visa-free, but some countries are moving towards the visa-free. Rwanda is moving towards that direction. I think that has been announced. Burkina Faso is moving down that direction. And then what other countries have is they have a list of countries that for whom citizens moving from one country to that country do not require visas, or they will only get a visa on arrival. In East Africa, among East Africans, that's if you're from Kenya, you're from Uganda, you're from Tanzania, you're from Rwanda, I think DRC Congo is one of those countries. Somalia is part of the East African community, as well as Burundi. You do not need a visa, or I do not need a visa to move in and around those countries. All I need is a travel document. I can use my national ID for as long as it's valid. In other words, not expired. I can use my passport. I can use my driving license, although it may not be guaranteed for all countries, but at least within the East African region, you do not require a visa. So, and then I think South Africans may not require visas to travel to Zimbabwe. So you have this element where you have countries within regional blocks having visa-free restrictions and things like that. But it's not a given all across Africa. And those are some of the barriers that we are imploring our leaders to break away, so that you can wake up and go to Egypt and you do not need a visa. That you can wake up and go to South Africa without paying for a visa for as long as you come back. And I do not think even it's rocket science. In any case, the European Union, even regardless of its imperfection, should be a blueprint for that. I used to wonder, particularly when it comes to UEFA Champions League games, how fans easily move, let's say from the UK and go to Spain, or go to France, go to Belgium, and watch a game and then return to their home country. Like, like it's a matter of walking into a drive-by KFC and buy, a plate of chicken. So, but I then understood the policy. So, anyways, that's what we hope to drive towards. But that's the context I can paint for you there. Do you have to pay for a visa on arrival? For some, I do not know specifically what countries, but for many countries, in Uganda, you can pay for a visa on arrival. You can pay for a visa on arrival. So specifically with regards to Spain, where I believe you're from, I do not know the particular context or relationship with Uganda, but for many, especially tourist visas, you can pay that on arrival. It's crazy that humans have to pay to just move around God's earth. We are all created to live in this earth. Why do we have to exploit people money? Now, I mean, I do share your school of thought. And now, of course, countries hide behind security reasons and immigration reasons for this kind of thing. But the way I look at life is that today I'm here and tomorrow I could be gone. With that at the back of my mind, I often think I don't want these earthly things. I don't want to be so tied to them in the sense of me being driven or taken by them. Because tomorrow the world will forget that you even ever existed, So if I want to just imagine, sometimes I imagine if it was a bus trip to Zambia and then I come back, what we call inbound tourism would be a huge thing, in Africa. Because I imagine, and again, we fail ourselves also on the infrastructure part, Mr. Tribe, can you give me a motivational quote? I'm not sure I have many of my fingertips, but I usually go with one that says, never judge a man until you walk a mile in their shoes. Never judge a man until you walk a mile in their shoes. Because oftentimes, in society and in life in general, we look at people when they do certain things or are living a certain life, and we are quick to judge them by simply what we see on the outside without knowing what their rationale or justifications are. There's also one that I came across recently, that every job seems easy when you're not the one doing it. Have you ever seen a security guard who wakes up every morning, grabs a piece of chair and sits in front of a door or stands at a door, and you think to yourself, that guy's role is just to sit there and watch guard or stand there and watch guard. And maybe somehow you think that's an easy job until you're the one given to do that job. So not many may come to mind, but at least those two would come in handy for me, or I always look back to them. Okay, so yeah, particularly, I mean, look at, do Moroccans need visas to travel to Spain? Because I understand it's not a very long distance. Then, for example, Africans, when you're building what they call travel history, a lot of people want that Schengen visa. Now, the Schengen visa is one that allows you to move across multiple European Union countries, France being one of them. I think Belgium is one of those, maybe Netherlands. I'm not too particularly sure. But yeah, there's that. Mine is time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Oh, wow. That's deep. Then particularly, still speaking about visa and this whole thing about human travel. Now, I understand the USA trying to put security measures and things like that when it comes to their immigration policy. But today, as we speak, for example, unless you're a student, you're going to be required, for example, if you're Ugandan, I speak for Uganda, although there are other countries on that list, you're required to post a bond of anywhere between 5,000 to 15,000 US dollars as bond for you to be granted a visa to travel to the USA. Now, that bond is that if it is a refundable money, that if you go and do not violate the terms and conditions of your visa, that money is refunded to you when you return. But if you go and you violate the terms of your visa, regardless of why you violated them, then that money will be withheld. It's more like of a ransom kind of thing, or a guarantee. that they are looking at to say that when you travel to the USA, you'll come back. And then I kept thinking to myself, when did humanity come to that? You know? And I say that particularly also remembering there's a clip I watched of a farmer. I think he's a carrot farmer somewhere in the USA. I don't remember what state they are coming from. I don't know if it was rural Ohio or anywhere. But they seem to be struggling with a shortage of labor because all his workers or all the people he was employing on his farm were running away in hiding because of ice. We all know the story about ice. And he was saying, if it does not harvest his his carrots and deliver to where he's supposed to supply it, he's going to lose money over closer to $1 million. And then it will be in violation of his contract. He could get sued and he could lose everything. Why? Because in this fight against immigration, the USA, from what I gather, and this may not be the absolute line of fact, but from what I gather, are not looking to weed out necessarily criminals or illegal immigrants, is that even the casual labor that comes with illegal immigrants, instead of looking to perhaps formalize or legitimize some of them, and I do not mean to say give them a free ticket to the American dream, but assessing and say, okay, you're here, how did you get here? What have you been doing? Where do you stay? What are your conditions? And you go through a certain vetting process for them to determine you can stay, you can go back, and things like that. And sort of get societal recommendation to say, that person is a good neighbor. Yes, they may not have the paperwork, they may have come illegally, they may have violated the visa issues and things like that, but their role in the American society and their valuation in society, or how society looks them and how they relate with them, maybe gives them a slap on the wrist and they say, you can stay. So I bring that in the context of the other rural farmer because of the impact he's having to deal with because of that immigration policy. So those are the kind of things that are coming out in the world, and it's not just the USA. Even other countries have their own, strict rules and regulations when it comes to immigration for all the right and wrong reasons per se. But I feel, do we really need to tighten our belts that much when it comes to, immigration and things like that? I certainly do not think so. Anyways, guys, it's part of life. Apologies for the deviation away from the main topic of football, but it's part of our territory. It's part of life. We for us to take a sound bite away from the usual topics and also tackle on things that impact our daily lives. But Pedri says there is 1.1 million Moroccans in Spain. And do you know how many foreigners Uganda has? Because Uganda is one of the biggest refugee host communities that we have around the world. We have immigrants from South Sudan. We have immigrants from Sudan, given the war that has been going between the two generals, Hemeti and Gallo. We have immigrants from Somalia. We have immigrants from Eritrea. We have immigrants from the DRC Congo. We have those who come from Rwanda, and all sorts of places. Uganda, at some point, it feels like it feels like a meeting point of all nationalities. And it's not to say that we have every nationality, but there are higher chances of you finding a Nigerian in Uganda than there are of you finding a Ugandan in Haiti or perhaps in France, and things like that. America is a nightmare now. It is a scary country. I'll never go there. Now, again, you see, and this is not entirely isolated or in isolation of the topic of football. Why? Because again, for the same policies that the USA are trying to implement, they've come under scrutiny, and this whole threat of some European countries threatening to boycott the World Cup is because of their immigration policies and how they feel that immigrants are being handled over there. People are wondering about their safety of when they go to watch the World Cup. Now, of course, it comes as a bit of a double-edged sword that you will want, and you'll have some unscrupulous people who want to go and stay in the US forever. But that's all besides the point. How about the safety of the genuine people? Because you're wondering if, let's say you go to watch a football match, football games at the World Cup, and then suddenly you've left your documents at the hotel, and then you're bundled up by ICE. And I'm not saying that's the case that is going to happen, but I'm just imagining, if that were to be the case, the kind of perhaps psychological torment that you could go through. So some people that perhaps could afford to go to the USA to watch the World Cup may have that as a lingering fear behind them. And I do not think FIFA has done good enough a PR campaign to try and alleviate those fears in one way or the other, for which I do think suddenly that they should be trying to do, So I do not know what the overall global sentiments are when it comes to that, but I do get that sort of feeling, that fearfulness that it could be an issue, that it could be something that the world ponders about. So, and now imagine you want to go watch the World Cup, but then you are for already what is expensive tickets and all the costs that you ought to incur in accommodation and food and travel, inland travel. Because, for example, if you have, let's say, one game being played in Dallas, Texas, and another game is in California, then that means you'll have to do some inland travel from one state to another. And then you're required to post a bond of, let's say, $15,000. So isn't that going to leave out some people? The World Cup has always been looked at as an all-inclusive kind of tournament, the kind of stage that brings people from all walks of life or countries to come and witness, this. But because of that sort of policy, already we know for a fact that there are countries that are blacklisted. No immigrants from Afghanistan, from Iraq, I think, from Iran. Now, it's almost like condemning the entirety of the Iran community, the Iraq society, the Afghanistan society as all being bad people, and yet, that may not entirely be the case. Anyways, let's move on from that and proceed to another part of this evening's topic. Liverpool will have to pay Chelsea for Rio Ngumoha. We did get reports earlier on. Reports did emerge that a panel had decided that Liverpool should pay Chelsea £2.8 million for Rio Ngumoha, who joined them in 2024 because he came through the Chelsea academy ranks. And then they will also pay an additional £4 million in further add-ons, depending on if certain things are achieved. Okay. Oh, am I missing something? Or was a comment deleted? Okay. I just want a World Cup to be shifted to only Canada and Mexico, And I do not know what measures Canada have set up, but I've not heard of such policies or stringent measures being set up to literally curtail those that may want to travel for the World Cup. But yeah, anyway. So according to David Austin, Liverpool must pay an initial fee of £2.8 million, which could rise by a further £4 million for the signing of Rio Ngumoha from Chelsea, who joined them as from in September 2024 from Chelsea. He came through the Chelsea Academy. Now it was the Professional Football Compensation Committee, PFCC tribunal, that came to that conclusion. The fees are not negotiable, particularly the £2.8 million. comment above, please. Yes, I've read the comment above. Is it the one regarding Canada? I've just read that one. Okay, yes, the one about Canada. Now, again, all that sort of sentiment, whatever it stems from, is because of what's been going on. We've seen the unsort of pleasant reports from, I think, Minnesota, where Governor Tim Walz or something like that, has sort of been having exchanges with President Donald John Trump about how ICE are treating, people, how people are literally in hiding and things like that, how there's a bit of uneasiness within his state, and people can't move all about freely because of fear of ICE. You never know. At any one time, you could get picked up. Some people have been wrongly picked up. There was, I think, a death recorded in the wake of that. It's not been pretty. It's not been pretty. Now about Mexico, and again, I don't know, maybe I'm not consuming enough information regarding those other two countries in Canada and Mexico pertaining to the World Cup. And by the way, is it just me, or does it not feel like it's a World Cup year? Because usually, at this point in time, there's a certain looking forward to it. There's a certain buzz about the World Cup coming up in the summer, because, it's only what, 4 months away now, or 4.5 months away, the World Cup. I don't know. I've not seen the adverts yet. I've not seen the buzz, I've not seen the promise of a great experience. I remember, I think maybe Qatar put in a lot of money in terms of advertising and pushing the World Cup and trying to set up a perfect stage. But it almost feels like we're still a year away from the World Cup, and yet that's not the case, Usually, there's a certain level of excitement that should be a buzz around. I understand people being a part of them being focused on their domestic leagues and things like that, or the respective leagues they pay attention to. But usually, the World Cup transcends that, especially for neutral fans because we have very many football fans out there that are not tied to any particular club. But when the World Cup comes around, they are a buzz of that. They look forward to that, But it doesn't necessarily feel like the mood is set. Maybe that's going to change in the coming a couple of months. I think it was Gianni Infantino was speaking about how they had received many, ticket orders and things like that. Then I saw a lady complaining of how they had been overcharged on their card. They purchased 2 tickets and they were charged for, is it 4 tickets? For a World Cup, and FIFA was not responding well to her cause of a refund and things like that. But yeah, overall to say is that I remember 2018 Russia. Before we arrived to the actual tournament, there's a bit of a buzz about it. The whole talk, like at some point, even before the end of the regular season, talk about the World Cup begins to amplify. Now, maybe it will amplify after those playoffs are done in the match after the March international break, but we know the draws have already been conducted. We know what country is going to be in what group, So that talk should be, should start gaining momentum, but it's certainly not felt the way, You say I'm very excited for it still, yeah, but people are not excited. Let's just wait and see what experience they will be able to present us. But there's suddenly a bit of a muteness about this whole thing of the World Cup. But anyways, back to the Liverpool conversation. So, okay, so there's So, like I said, the Professional Football Compensation Committee tribunal did make the ruling. So these fees are non-negotiable. Apart from the 2.8 million pounds is non-negotiable, but the 4 million pounds is perhaps negotiable, but it's based on achievables and things like that. As we know, the structuring of add-ons. Then Chelsea have a future 20% profit 20% profit on the sale of Rio Ngumoha. So if, for example, let's say in the summer, Liverpool decide to sell Rio Ngumoha for about, let's say, 7.2 million pounds, which, no, let's say 7.8 million pounds, and let's say they stand to make a profit of about 5 million pounds before he achieves all the others that would qualify for Liverpool to be paying add-ons, then that would mean a 5 million pound profit, for which Chelsea will be entitled to 20% of that. So that's what the ruling has determined, according to David Ornstein of The Athletic. So beautiful. I don't know. I think that's exciting news for Chelsea. I'm not sure whether it's very exciting for the Liverpool fans. I don't know their sentiments about that. Okay. Meanwhile, Florian Wirtz has been voted a Player of the Month, the Premier League Player of the Month, EA Sports Premier League Player of the Month. Wow, that's incredible. 4 goals, 2 assists. Majority of that has come in recent times. He's looked sharp, he's looked brilliant in recent times. That pretty much I've said, you know. Okay. Okay. Maybe I should take some. Now, the Athletic did rate or rank the top 100 summer signings in the Premier League. And I was looking at their list, and I don't know whether I agree with everything, but they have some it's quite an interesting list. I do not know whether it's been arranged in any particular order, but it does appear to be the case that it's in this order. They put Rancheki from Lyon to Man City. They put Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen to Sunderland. Michael Kayode to Brentford. They have Hugo Ekitike from RB Leipzig to Liverpool. Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a free agent from Everton to Leeds. William Esteval from Paramirez to Chelsea. Robin Rofis, that's the Sunderland goalkeeper. Malik Thiaw, I think from AC Milan to Newcastle, the Senegalese defender. Anton Stach at Leeds United. Gianluigi Donnarumma from PSG to Man City. Keenan Drisbury Hall from Chelsea to Everton. Martin Dubravka at Burnley from Newcastle. Adrian Trafford, this is the left back at AFC Bournemouth from was it Stade Rennes? Was it Stade Rennes? Stand to be corrected. Then Jordan Henderson from Ajax to Brentford. They have Jack Grealish from on loan from Man City to Everton. They have Martin Zubimendi in 6th place from Real Sociedad to Arsenal. I do not think I would put Martin Zubimendi that low. For me, he's been quite the revelation. Lab says, thanks for the analysis. Be back tomorrow. Thank you so much. We'll also be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Do not miss out on that in case you can afford to make the time. Then you have Mohamed Kudus from West Ham to Tottenham. You have Omar Adarelete. You have Nodi Mokeile. I think this one is at Sunderland, possibly. Nodi Mokeile. Then you have Nick Voltmada from Stuttgart to Newcastle. You have Tijan Rienders. I would put Tijan Rienders a little higher than 21st. From AC Milan to Man City. You have Kyle Walker from Man City to Burnley. You have Brian Mbomo. I would put Brian Mbomo significantly higher. From Brentford to Man United. Florian Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen to Liverpool. Igor Jesus. Mateus Fernandez from, I think, was it Southampton? To West Ham. Ebeleche Eze from Crystal Palace to Arsenal. Alex Gimenez, Ladislav Rijic, Joao Pedro, Joao Paulinha, Gabriel Goodmanson. This one is at Leeds. Maxime Di Cupia. This one is at Brighton. Sene Lomans at Man United. Komen Kelleher, Reynold Mandava, Malik Diouf at West Ham, Sean Longstaff at Leeds, Omari Hudson, Noah Okafor, Leslie Ugochukwu, Yogi Mamadashvili, Enzo Leafy, Noah Sadiki, Christian Mosquera at Arsenal, Tony Barry at Everton, Magasa at West Ham, Samuel Chukwueze on loan there at Fulham from AC Milan, Victor Lindelof at Aston Villa, Jack Bijol, Xavi Simons, Kevin at Fulham, Getruida, Chamsden Tarabi, Zion Fleming, Piero Hincapie, Kevin Danso, Danny Ndoye, Milos Kakes, Matas Cunha, Noni Madueke, Florentino Luis, Dango Ouattara at Brentford from Bournemouth, Victor Gyökeres, Tyler Dibling, Carl Walker-Peters, Lucas Perry, Jade Camvot, this one is at Crystal Palace, Jamie Gittens from Borussia Dortmund to Chelsea, Alexander Isak, I really don't know about that, from Newcastle to Liverpool, Carlos Alcaraz, Callum Wilson, Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig to Man United, Quilindishi Hartman, Tolu Arokodare, Bafode Diakite, Giadon Anthony, Jacob Brand Larson, George Petrovic, Liam Delap, Jürgen Strand Larson at Wolverhampton Wanderers, Jeremy Frimpong, Yohan Wissa, Alejandro Garnacho at Chelsea, Amain Adali, Douglas Luiz, Jean-Victor, Marco Bizot, Bran Broby, Randall Colomwani, Jean-Claire Todibo at West Ham, Colomwani at Spurs, Ryan Ashnory, Nicole Savona, Aaron Ramsdale, Dylan Bakwa, Jacob Ramsey, this one is at Newcastle, Bertrand Traore, Lucas Numenka, then Shalompas Costolas at Brighton, and Jorel Hato there. So that's the list from the Athletic in regards to the to what they regard as the top 100 summer signings in the Premier League by their own ratings. I certainly do not agree with majority of those rankings. Meanwhile, I had lost access to the game between Atletico de Madrid and Real Betis. Let me see if I can regain that feed. But Atletico de Madrid are leading the game by 4-0 as we speak. So that is happening. So tomorrow, do not forget, we have a game in the Premier League that kickstarts the curtain riser of match day 25. Okay, not the curtain riser, because it itself is a match 25 game, a match day 25 game that is happening. That's between Leeds United and Nottingham Forest at Elland Road. So do not miss out on that at 11 p.m. East African time. Let me see who the fourth goal scorer is here. Antoine Griezmann in the 62nd minute did score to give Atletico de Madrid, who are leading this game. I think it's now what? 6-1 on aggregate, something like that. So anyways. Okay, so yeah, that's the report regarding Liverpool, regarding Cristiano Ronaldo, in pertaining to what could happen. Also, Darwin Núñez and Fenerbahce deal did not happen. I mean, Darwin Núñez. Then Enric Lama, sorry, I don't know why I like calling him Enric Lama, but Enric, or somebody's asking me, but what happened to Jean Duran at Al Nassr? It was very quick and expensive transfer. Sometimes it just it just doesn't work out. So it did not work out for them as they had hoped. So it just happens that way. So, anyways, okay. All right. I'll leave that at that. As talking about Endrick from Real Madrid on loan to Lyon has been quite a revelation or has done tremendously well. Now, particularly, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised about Endrick because his talent was never in doubt. I'm one of those who think he was never afforded the sufficient time at playing time at Real Madrid. We remember when Carlo Ancelotti summoned his first squad for Brazil. It did not include Enrique, and when he was asked, he said, "How does he pick a player who does not play at his club?" And yet he had been the coach at, yet he had been the at Real Madrid, who literally did not give him that sufficient time. So really, it's quite very interesting. He has that good left foot. He's energetic. He's still young, only 19 years of age. He has his whole future ahead of himself. I think he could use a couple of loan spells, get consistent game time, not just in preparation for the World Cup, but for the next 2 years, for him to sort of mature a bit. I have a feeling that if given the time to mature from elsewhere, he could eventually find the sort of space at Real Madrid eventually, So really, it's a bit of an interesting take on there. All right, I'll get to that in a bit. Hopefully, I do not forget. Uh, Anyways, guys, it's been such an interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Lab from South Africa. Pedri, always a pleasure. Ali, thank you so much. Zaiv, thank you so much. Who else? Abtroli, thank you so much. Who else? There's somebody else here. Yes, funny moments. Thank you so much. And every single one of you that has been part of tonight's podcast for the last 1 hour and 18 minutes. It's always a pleasure. Let's do this again tomorrow. Oh, we're supposed to do this again tomorrow morning. But like I said, the weekend does get underway. Action will begin tomorrow for match day 25 of the Premier League. Then it will continue with fixtures on Saturday. We do have an early kickoff on Saturday, I think, coming at around, is it 3:30 p.m.? Yes, between Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester United, with Tottenham traveling to Old Trafford, a game which I have a feeling Tottenham Hotspur will lose. They're just that bad a team in the Premier League. I don't know. Then at 6 p.m., we'll have a whole host of games, as many as 5 games. When Arsenal take on Sunderland, we'll have Bournemouth up against Aston Villa, Burnley up against West Ham United, Fulham take on Everton, Wolverhampton Wanderers against Chelsea. Then Newcastle at 8:30 p.m. will be up against Brentford, and then on Super Sunday we'll have only 2 games between Brighton and Crystal Palace at 5 p.m. while at 7:30 p.m. Liverpool will be up against Manchester City. So that's what you should expect from a match day 25 of the Premier League. Meanwhile, Atletico de Madrid have the fifth goal against Real Betis. Quite the route that they've gone on against their Spanish La Liga opponents. Okay, quickly. In the Spanish La Liga, Real Madrid play against Valencia on Sunday. Barcelona will be up against Rayo Mallorca, I think, on Saturday at 6:15 p.m. Vallecano will be up against Real Oviedo. Sevilla take on Girona. That's still on Saturday. Real Sociedad will be up against Elche. We'll get to look at all those fixtures that will be coming our way over the weekend in tomorrow morning's podcast. Then tomorrow, hopefully, if it all works out, we will do an interview with one of the leading sports journalists in the country. So yeah, for those of you that have managed to keep it locked on the Football Tribe UG channel, thank you so much for the last 1 hour and 20 minutes that you've been with us. Stay blessed and have a wonderful rest of the night. Bye-bye for now.